Welcome back to more Sip2Tally. I'm your host, Coach Evans, and today we're going to take a look at our number 11 team on the more Sip2Tally power rankings, and that is your New York Jets. Now, we all know the issue that the New York Jets had. They brought in Aaron Rodgers last year. There was a lot of hype because they have a good defense, and they brought in Aaron Rodgers, and the fact was he was the missing link to what happened. He went down on the third or fourth play of the season, and the backup quarterbacks with an S on it just didn't quite go right. They didn't go to the free agent market and pick up anybody that would have helped them, Joe Flacco or anybody, and their season kind of went downhill. The defense couldn't hold on and lead them to a bunch of victories, and they just had a cluster of a season. But new year, let's get into what they got coming back, and let's start off with Aaron Rodgers. Again, Aaron Rodgers basically really had no stats last year because of how early he got injured in the season. They tried to remedy that by just basically wiping the slate of the backups. So what's left in that quarterback room, they brought in a veteran. Tyrod Taylor is now the backup behind Aaron Rodgers. Last year he played enough last year. He threw for 1,300 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions in a backup role last year. And they also drafted Jordan Travis. So if Aaron Rodgers goes down, they got Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor goes down, they got Jordan Travis, who I think played enough of high-level football at Florida State to where he can be functional. Now, he probably won't go out and win you a bunch of games, but I think he has enough in the tank where he can run and throw enough to keep you in games, and hopefully your defense can win you some games. So I think their quarterback room is a lot better than it was last year, because the guys behind Aaron Rodgers last year, for lack of a better word, were straight up trash. Let's talk about the running backs behind Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall. We know what Breece Hall is. He should be 100% completely healthy back from his injury 2 years ago. So I expect to see the full explosion, the full speed, the full burst from Breece Hall back. And Breece Hall did all this behind a terrible offensive line too. The offensive line was part of the reason what happened with Aaron Rodgers. 994 yards, 5 touchdowns. He caught 76 balls. They were checked down Charlie in New York last year. He caught 76 balls for 591 yards. Also had 4 touchdowns there. They got Israel Abanikanda from Pittsburgh. He didn't play much last year, had 70 yards rushing. But they also drafted 2 guys. I'm only going to mention one, Braden Allen. Braden Allen. And so I look for them to run the ball better than they did in the past to kind of alleviate some of that pressure off Aaron Rodgers throwing it so much. But let's talk about some of the guys who he's going to be throwing it to. We'll start with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is a young, budding superstar. Now, I said superstar, but I don't think he's at superstar status yet. Had Aaron Rodgers been healthy last year, Garrett Wilson probably would be at superstar status because he has that potential, that ability. Now, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I think Garrett Wilson will be one of the top wide receivers in the league this year. Last year, with the quarterbacks that they had, with the trash quarterbacks they had, 95 catches, 1,042 yards, 3 touchdowns. Great job with what he was thrown with. In that room, got some new guys and some old guys. They brought in Big Mike from Los Angeles Chargers. He didn't play much last year, but we know the big playability of Mike Williams. He had 19 catches for 249 yards, but he only played in 3 games. They drafted Malachi Corley, who I really liked. So he can get you some yards after the catch. Get him the ball in space, and he can turn into a running back, so to speak, if you get him the ball quickly. Xavier Gibson was a guy that kind of made the team as a returner, but ended up getting some slot reps and doing some different things for him. Alan Lazard, who's a longtime Packer, who played with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and Jason Brownlee, who made the team, barely made the team, but made it last year, and who's the 6th receiver in that room. So their wide receiver room, Garrett Wilson's good. Mike Williams is He's good, but I think Mike's 20. Yeah, Mike's 29 and coming off injury, so not sure what you're gonna get out of Mike. But those two are formidable. You got the rookie and Corley. Xavier Gibson will be in his second year, and then you got Lazard and Brownlee. So it's an okay wide receiver room. Tight end room. Tyler Conklin coming back had 621 yards on 61 catches. Jeremy Rucker's also in that room, 16 catches, 151 yards. Rounding that room out is Kenny Yeboah. I think that's how you say it. 2 catches, 26 yards. So their tight end room leaves a lot to be desired, but also Conklin is the guy in that room. And Conklin is one of the guys that kind of gives you, in my opinion, a receiver and a good inline blocker. He's one of the guys in the league that kind of fits the mold that can do both. And so that'll help them out in their run game this year. Let's talk about the guys that will be doing the blocking for Aaron Rodgers and the running backs. And I mentioned their O-line being trash too. So they got 3 new guys up there. How much of an improvement that O-line is, I'm not really sure. But let's talk about the guys that got up there up front. They brought in Tyron Smith from the Cowboys. We know Tyron Smith to be an excellent left tackle with the Cowboys. But Tyron Smith, is he going to officially hit the cliff this year? I do not know. But when Tyron Smith is healthy, he's one of the best. All right, left guard, they brought in John Simpson from the Ravens. To me, John Simpson was the worst Ravens O-lineman, even though he had an okay year last year. But to me, he was the worst O-lineman the Ravens had last year. Joe Tippin, their center, he graded at 61. He's a holdover from last year. Vera Tucker graded out at 71.7. He's a holdover from the Jets last year. And they also brought in Morgan Moses from the Ravens last year, who I think was he was okay. He was okay. He was solid for the Ravens last year. He was better in the run game than he was in the pass game, and his best attribute was pulling and whatnot. So their O-line is better. I will say that. Their offensive line is better. But I don't know how much good it's going to be, especially with the age of Tyron Smith and John Simpson. I'm not going to even tell you what I called him on my other channel. But with John Simpson up there. So let's kind of move on over to the dark side, the defensive side of the ball for the New York Jets. All right, the Jets run, their base is a 4-3, but we know the Jets really get after it. And the defensive side of the ball is where they are really good defensively. The edge guys for the Jets, Jermaine Johnson, drafted him a couple years out of Florida State. He was at Georgia for a while, but finished at Florida State last year at 55 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 11 TFLs. The other edge guy will be Hassan Reddick, the long-time Philadelphia Eagle. He had 11 sacks last year, 38 tackles. So those two guys coming off the edge will really have a chance to get a ton of sacks, because they're going to get one-on-one matchups. Because in the middle of that Jets defense, you have probably one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game of football, and that's Quentin Williams. Quentin Williams only had 5.5 sacks and 62 tackles. He had 11 TFLs and 20 QB hits, but he is probably one of the, if not the most explosive and disruptive defensive tackle in football right now. If he's not the best interior defensive lineman, he's top 2, and he may not be number 2, but he's definitely up there. Add Javon Kinlaw into that, and Kinlaw's finally starting to come into his own. So you got a formidable front 4 from the New York Jets that's really going to keep those linebackers clean. And speaking of linebackers, the 3 linebackers that are going to play, 2 of them are really, really, really good. Quincy Williams, who's Quentin's brother, had 139 tackles last year, 2 sacks, run around, make tackles. Quincy also is good in pass pro, had 10, not pass pro, and defending the pass. He had 10 passes defended. And then you talk about C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley been doing it at a high level for a long time. Had 152 tackles. He also had 7 passes defended. And Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley both had an interception apiece. So just on those 2, behind that front 4, they're going to run around and make plays all day long. You add Sherwood into that, and he didn't play as much last year. Once they go in the nickel, he'd come out. So he's like the third guy. So he only had 46 tackles. But when they're in that base, Sherwood is in there, and he brings their rating down just a little bit because they're in base. But we know how much nickel is played in the NFL right now. But their base is 4-3. So let's talk about the DBs. Sauce. Sauce had the amazing rookie season, and it reflected in his stats this year, but it didn't reflect in his film. Stats-wise, Sauce really didn't have a boatload of stats like he had last year. He had 11 PBUs, didn't have interception. Why? You don't throw at him no more. Because odds are it's going to get knocked down or intercepted. That's what happens when you have a great season like he had his rookie campaign. DJ Reed's on the other side, and DJ Reed got tested a lot this year because of the season Sauce had, and he held up. He had 9 PBUs, 76 tackles. So that's a great combination between those two. The slot guys, Michael Carter, he had 9 PBUs also. Out of those 3, only one person had an interception is DJ Reed. They had a lot of PBUs. The front 7 put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, so it was a lot of throwaways, a lot of QB hurries, a lot of sacks. It was just, they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And then at safety, they lost Whitehead to, I think, Tampa Bay. But they got Chuck Clark coming back, who didn't play a down last year. Got hurt, right around this time last year, so he'll be coming back. And they got Tony Adams, who played in 15 games, had 82 tackles, had 3 interceptions. And so their safety room, they got to find some continuity there because, again, Chuck didn't play at all last year because of the injury he had in the offseason. So that is their defense. I think it's one of the better defenses in the league. But let's take a look at all the rankings, and you let me know if they're too high, too low, and you put that in the comment section below while I read them out to you. Let's get to it. So the quarterback room, I have 7th. Running back room, 20th. Wide receivers, 26th. Tight ends, 14th. Offensive line, 17th. Defensive line, edge, 11th. Linebackers, 1st. Cornerbacks, 1st. Safeties, 31st. Add that all together, divide it, 14.22222. That make the New York Jets the 11th best team on the more Sip2Tally power rankings. I know. You're probably not going to agree with the linebacker and the cornerback, but let me know how you feel about it in the comment section. I forgot to put the draft content in, so I'm doing it in post. Let's take a look at their draft picks and see how they fit into the Jets 2024 roster. Olu Fashanu, who's probably a insurance case at the tackle position for both tackles, left and right. Malachi Corley, who we did talk about as far as breaking into that receiver rotation, probably be that slot receiver. Braylon Allen be that 3rd running back. They got 2 rookie running backs and a 2nd-year running back also. All the running backs are young. Jordan Travis, the number 3 quarterback, led an undefeated Florida State before he got hurt. Isaiah Davis is the 2nd running back I talked about. Quintez Stiggers, who has an amazing story. Go look it up. Just an amazing, probably even pull a tear out of his story from him. And then their last pick, who was Mr. Irrelevant, Jalen Key, who I'm rooting for, who's an alumni of my current work job. I appreciate y'all coming out. So like, comment, subscribe, share, comment. I'm open for the comments. We can discuss it. I like the comments because I get to see other people's football acumen. Peace, y'all. See you tomorrow. Number 10 coming up.